Hey, welcome. So today we're going to be unboxing one of the most legendary pieces of tech ever made. Seriously, it doesn't need a battery, it won't connect to your Wi-Fi, but for more than 400 years, it has been at the absolute top of its game. We are talking about the violin.
Okay, let's just jump right in. Have you ever really thought about it? What makes this wooden box with some strings so incredibly special? How is an instrument that was designed way back in the 1500s still a complete powerhouse in concert halls, movie scores, and even rock songs today? We're going to find out why the violin might just be the most overpowered item in the entire history of music. So, to really understand what makes this thing tick, we've got to look inside. I want you to think of it like it's some kind of high-performance gadget. We're going to pop the hood and check out the core hardware that makes this thing sing. Now, what's so cool about this is how every single part has a very specific job. The body, which is made from special spruce and maple wood, is the sound chamber. It's what makes the music sound so huge. The neck is your grip, and that really fancy scroll at the top, that's basically the logo. The four strings are the source code of the sound, and the bridge, well, the bridge is the crucial transfer unit. It sends all those vibrations from the strings right into the body. And hidden inside, there's this tiny wooden dowel, the sound post. Think of it as the soul of the violin. It doesn't just support the top, it actually connects the front and the back, transmitting vibrations and giving the violin its powerful, rich tone. Without it, the sound would be like super weak and tinny.
Okay, so we've got the hardware, but how do you actually boot it up? How does a tiny little vibration on a super thin string get turned into a sound that can fill an entire auditorium with emotion? Let's get into the physics of it.
It's actually a really cool and pretty simple chain reaction. So first, the player makes the string vibrate, usually with a bow. Second, that vibration travels down the string and hits the bridge, which then transfers all that energy directly into the wooden body of the violin. Finally, that hollow body acts like a giant amplifier, taking that tiny little shake and turning it into a rich, powerful sound that just shoots out of those F-shaped holes. It's just brilliant, low-tech amplification. And players have two main ways to trigger that sound. You can think of them as different attack modes in a video game. Bowing is your sustained beam attack. You draw the bow across the string to create these long, flowing, powerful notes. Then you've got pizzicato, which is kind of like burst fire. You just pluck the string with your finger for a short, sharp, snappy sound. And the high-precision controller for all of this? It's the bow. And it's not just some stick with hair on it, okay? It's usually made from a super strong and flexible wood called pernambuco, and the horsehair is coated in a sticky tree sap called rosin. This gives it the perfect amount of grip on the strings. By changing the speed and pressure, a player can go from a whisper-soft sound to a thundering roar. It's the key to all the emotion. So who were the original developers behind this incredible design? Well, to find that out, we have to travel back in time to Italy and meet the master builders who perfected this technology hundreds of years ago.
So the violin first showed up in northern Italy way back in the 1500s. It really took off during what's called the Baroque period because composers realized it could sound incredibly like a human singing voice. Then, in the 17th and 18th centuries, we hit the golden age of violin making. The design was absolutely perfected. And get this, the violins made back then are still considered the best in the world. The core design is so good, it hasn't needed an update in over 400 years. Wild.
And the scene back then? It was basically like Silicon Valley, but for violins. In this one small town in Italy, Cremona, you had these competing workshops. You had the Amati family, they were the original pioneers. You had the Guarneri family, famous for their deep, powerful sound. And then you had Antonio Stradivari. His instruments, now known as Stradivarius violins, are considered the absolute greatest of all time. We're talking GOAT status. The crazy part is, nobody knows exactly how they did it. These makers used secret recipes for their varnish and had all these special techniques for treating the wood. Their methods were so good that today, with all of our modern technology, scientists are still studying these antique instruments, trying to reverse engineer the code to figure out why a 300-year-old violin sounds so much better than one made yesterday. Of course, having the best gear is only half the battle, right? You also need elite players who can push that hardware to its absolute limit. In the music world, we call these players virtuosos. So what's a virtuoso? They're basically an S-tier player, someone who's maxed out all their stats and achieved the highest possible level of skill. There was this guy from history, Niccolo Paganini, who was so unbelievably good that people literally thought he had magical powers. That's the level we're talking about here, the esports champions of the classical music world.
And how did they get that good? Well, by mastering the pro-level skill tree. For example, they unlock vibrato. That's when they rock their finger back and forth on the string to give the note a warm, shimmering quality. They master trills, rapidly alternating between two notes to build tension. They learn double stops, which is kind of like playing a duet with yourself by bowing two strings at once. And of course, they build up blazing speed, playing an insane number of notes per second with perfect accuracy. Each skill just adds another layer of expression. So, where do all these pro players show off their skills? Well, the violin isn't just for one type of game. It can log on to a bunch of different servers depending on the style of music. One really popular mode is chamber music, like in a string quartet. You should think of this as a small elite squad. You've got 4 players, 2 violins, a viola, and a cello. The first violin usually gets the main melody, while the second violin plays harmony. It's a super intimate and conversational style of music, where every single player has a critical role to play. But it's not just about classical music. The violin is incredibly versatile. In folk and country music, they call it a fiddle and use it for these super high-energy dance tunes. And it shows up in jazz, in rock, even pop music. This instrument is a master of disguise, able to fit into almost any genre you can possibly think of. That adaptability is one of its greatest strengths, for sure. So after all that, what's the one thing you should really take away from this? It's this. The violin is like a powerful voice. It can tell any story, from any time, in any style, without ever having to say a single word. It can sound heroic, or sad, or joyful, or angry. It's truly one of the purest forms of expression ever invented. And that leaves us with one final thought. For 400 years, this instrument has been telling humanity stories. So if you could use this incredibly expressive voice to tell your story, what would it sound like?